Ah, the old Scrambler debate. Is it a Scrambler? Isn't it a Scrambler? What constitutes a sweet little Scrambler? If you do some research or ask around, it's pretty likely you'll hear a few different versions of what a Scrambler actually is. And while it might not be an easy definition to produce, I'll do my best to unscramble it for you in the next 11 minutes or so. Hello, my sweet two-wheeled loving children. I am your host, the illustrious and immortal shabby dude, Clammy Cube, Yammie, Noob. Back once again to deliver the sweet motorcycle content you've come to know and love. Today we're dissecting what it means to scramble. And I'm not talking eggs, even though there's gonna be a lot of egg jokes in here. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Before we jump in, be sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. We're doing huge things here at Yammie Noob, and you should be a part of it. Be sure to hit the bell to get notified too. I wouldn't want you missing out on all this grade A primo motorcycling content. That'd be a shame. Wouldn't that be a shame? I also want to give a huge shout out to Ridge Wallets for supporting the channel. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about them at the end of this video. Now, without further ado, let's jump into what the hubbub is all about when it comes to scramblers. It may seem like scramblers magically appeared like the mythical unicorns they are, with a pair of cuff jeans, beard pomade, and craft beer. But millennials aren't actually to blame for this one. Or maybe we are. Let's try this again. Millennials are not to blame for the origination of the Scrambler. We might be to blame for ruining them, but only if you feel like they've been ruined, which, depending on your age group and predilection, might be true.
Soiled it! Soiled it! Soiled it! Soiled it! Soiled it!
Scramblers are kind of like that egg you were supposed to be frying up for your girlfriend, but you broke the yolk, and instead of tossing or admitting that you didn't actually know how to cook a sunny side up egg, you repurposed it and made it into an omelet instead. And who doesn't love a good omelet? So where did these delicious breakfast bikes come from? Well, for that, we're gonna have to go across the pond, visiting those chaps we liberated ourselves from hundreds of years ago and all the way back to the early 1920s. British riders of the 20s engaged in point-to-point races, and back then, the only real rule was to find a way to get to the finish line first. And to take you sweet squidlets back to your geometry classes, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight, direct line, or something like that, which usually meant leaving the tiny winding roads of Britain and making a new path. So here are these bikers. They're pumped and they're ready to go. They've spent the last day and a half taunting one another about who has the ugliest baby and whose balls are the smallest. They've pushed their bikes to their known limits and then pushed some more, and enjoyed the freedom and incredible parking the two wheels offered. These dudes would go ripping across fog-covered fields and streams, flying through hills, muddy areas, hedges, bogs, and marshes, you name it, all in the hopes of making it to the designated finish point first. Please, try to do that on your Super Sport and let me know how that works out. Public service announcement. It is a known fact that while your old Papa Yam posts some pretty great listen videos, you shouldn't listen to or perform any stunts mentioned by said Yam, ever. I'm not responsible for you, but I do love you. Even if you do demand that I wrap the motorcycle we're giving away in hentai, you absolute degenerates, complete and utter degenerates. And not a lot really changed in European racing from the 1920s to the 1950s. Riders were still racing from point to point, but instead of hopping off-road for some muddy action, riders were racing from cafe to cafe, bringing to life the cafe racer. We really do have a lot to thank the EU for, except Article 13. We may or may not be quivering at the possibility of a meme ban. Seriously. The similarities between the Scrambler and the Cafe Racer are uncanny. Maybe not the bikes themselves, but the fact that both machines were born from necessity and from the innate desire to speed along on two wheels, free as a bird, racing through the world and annihilating any competition that dared stand in the way. If you're ever confused about what makes a Scrambler and what makes a Cafe bike, know that one has more race bike ergonomics while the other has more upright bars. That's kind of the general rule of thumb. Let's all take a moment of silence and thank our Lord and Savior, sweet baby Rossi, for the gifts he has given. It's a little known fact, but Rossi was cracking mega dank woolies in his crib. True story. Where were we? Yes, right. Good old Britain in the 1920s. I know what you're thinking. Yams, we're in America. Why the British history lesson? Because in the 1950s and 60s, Scrambler mania hit America, and boy did she hit us hard. The 1960s saw the pinnacle of Scrambler motorcycles, and riders all over the country were hard for the road bike that could also be taken off-road. Wait a minute. A street bike that can be ridden off-road? Isn't that a dual sport? Well, sort of. Let's put a pin on that and come back to it later. The magical power of Scramblers were infectious, and even the manliest of men couldn't resist the spell. Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, and Bob Dylan were all fond of Triumphs and other Scramblers. And who are we mere mortals to argue with the likes of Steve McQueen? Do you feel lucky enough to take on Clint Eastwood? Do you, punk? Okay, but seriously, these guys are legends. They probably know a thing or two about quality bikes. In the 70s, the Scrambler was put on the back burner for a new kid in town. The new kid was faster, lighter, better, cheaper, and purposely built for off-road riding. That's right, I'm talking about dirt bikes. The dirt bike essentially killed production of the Scrambler until the early 2000s. Manufacturers realized that a motorcycle designed specifically for the dirt would not only sell better, but would perform much better too than one with compromises. But just like when it was first introduced in America, Scrambler fever started spreading and it spread fast. Now historically, a Scrambler is basically a makeshift dirt bike. Purists will argue about what characteristics define a Scrambler, but a few points most people tend to agree on are that Scramblers have a torquey, air-cooled single or twin-cylinder engine, high-mounted exhaust pipes for ground clearance, thick tread, knobby tires on spoked wheels, dual rear shocks, a short padded saddle, a small gas tank, small gauges, a small headlight, wide handlebars, and an overall stripped down back to basics appearance. Traditionally, a Scrambler would see off-road riding and plenty of it, which is why there are no decorative bells or whistles on these babies, and why the few things that are there are strategically placed. These bikes have smaller headlights and gauges to prevent them from being snapped off during off-road riding, which is why the exhaust pipes are mounted so high. Clearance is everything when you're riding through the brush, across rocky terrain, or really anywhere that doesn't offer some sweet pavement. What won't you find in a Scrambler? Well, all the extra stuff, the sort of thing that Harleys are most well known for: saddlebags, chrome, flashy gas tanks, excessive fairings, and the like. Even though Ducati and Triumph were more than happy to sell you said accessories for a major markup, how about some of those sweet, sweet Scrambler lifestyle goods? I hear those profit margins are exceedingly fat. You can find some pretty great modern Scramblers. In fact, just about any bike manufacturer worth their salt has their own version of the Scrambler in some kind of optional mount kit today. Now that's due to the fact that they're trying to capitalize on the Scrambler craze, but most manufacturers are making some version of it. Ducati and Triumph hold the lead for best Scramblers right now though. The Ducati Scrambler Classic and the Triumph Street Scrambler are two of the most clambered after Scramblers on the market. They're fast, attractive, and reliable, like your old pal Yammie Noob. But are these modern Scramblers really Scramblers? In title, yes, they're called Scramblers. In execution, most are pretty lacking in off-road performance. In reality, these bikes have become pretty anachronistic, which basically means we're trying to apply modern views, opinions, and ultimately production to something from the past. There's your Yammie word for the day. You're welcome. Modern Scramblers are like millennials. They've got a reputation that's not necessarily always true. The phrase I've heard used most often to describe modern Scramblers is form over function. And in a lot of ways that's true, but again, that's because we've repurposed something. We've taken the bits we love from the original Scramblers and turned it into a modern machine, which means it may no longer be the optimal tool for the job, or maybe it's time for people to recognize that the job has changed. Whoa, it's pretty philosophical, but also true. Ultimately, most modern Scramblers are beautiful beyond compare, and they come with a pretty hefty price tag to go along with all that beauty, kind of like dating. So most Scramblers won't ever see a patch of dirt. Not intentionally anyways. But that's not to say that there aren't purists out there who won't rip a wheelie down a dirt road and pop back onto the interstate like it's no big deal. Those people do exist. They've just become the minority of Scrambler riders thanks to dirt bikes and dual sports. But one thing is for sure, Scramblers look sweet as hell, and that is definitely part of the appeal and charm. An upright motorcycle with modern day amenities, a torquey twin, and the Swiss Army knife nature the Scramblers have is a special thing, even if they do weigh over 400 pounds nowadays. And that's gonna wrap up today's video, my dudes. If you liked the video, be sure to click the like button and subscribe for more. Go ahead and ring that bell to get notifications anytime there's some more sweet Papa Yam coming at you. I'll be posting 2 of these videos per week now, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. What do you think? Are modern Scramblers really Scramblers? Or are they just a millennial douchebag mobile? Do the purists need to get off their high horse and recognize that the times are changing? Drop your Yammie love and argument starters in the comment section below. Special shout out to our sponsor, Ridge Wallets. These guys are amazing. I've loved working with them so far. They sent over several wallets for me to check out. I'm seriously digging them. They're super minimal, sleek, and affordable. This is gonna be the last wallet you're gonna need, guys, I promise. They've also got some pretty sweet RFID blocking technology, but if you're not into that sort of thing, you can always test their bulletproof construction out instead. If you click the link in the description below and use the code Yammie at checkout, Ridge Wallet's gonna hook you up with 10% off your order. And while that might not be enough to pay for a date with the girl you've been wanting to ask out, every little bit is gonna help. Again, that's 10% off your order using the code Yammie at checkout. Ridge Wallet's gonna hook you guys up with that discount code. Now, Yammie Noob does not support any stupid ideas you decide to try out based on that bulletproof comment. And if you haven't already, don't forget to roll on over to the Beginner Bike Build series and find out how you can get entered to win a free CB900. That's right, I'm giving away a free motorcycle. Check it out in the link below, cast your vote for our next mods, and hang out in our cool Discord server. I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you wonderful folks in the comments. Fact: banging your head against a wall for 1 hour burns 150 calories. It will likely kill significantly more brain cells, but hey, calories are calories, am I right? Goodbye.